Alors, I think we will start first to talk about the agenda of today. The agenda of today. So at 1 p.m. We are a bit late on schedule, but I will do a quick presentation of SUMAS. And then at 1:10, we will talk about professional environment changes and companies' fundamentals naturally evolving toward sustainability with Dr. Hans Bender, which is here. And then at 1:40, we will talk about career paths in sustainability with our alumna, Oonagh. Thanks both of you to join today's webinar, and yeah, we'll go ahead with the presentation. So about SUMAS, we have two campuses, one in Gland and one in Italy. The campus in Gland is in one of the most sustainable buildings in Europe. It's LEED Platinum certified. And to mention few, but not only, we have the WWF, the IUCN, and the Ramsar that are in the building. I'm sure everybody knows about the WWF. The IUCN, has a similar role as the WWF, but it's also the biggest law policy maker when it comes to environment and worldwide. Ramsar, it's basically everything which is, I would say, basically related with water, lakes, seas, and everything. And we are as well in this campus, so it's a very nice place to be. It's a lot of researchers, politicians, and a lot of people passionate about sustainability and environment. The Italian campus, it's right in the center of Milan, in one of the most fashion and cultural districts of Milan. It's in the old factory that has been given to the city of Milan. It's been renovated, and now it's a hub of technology, fashion, and industries. Google was there. We have Moleskine, which is a very high fashion brand, and yeah, we have also our campus there. They do the weekly the Milan fashion show in this building as well, just to give you an idea. So it's a really dynamic place of Milan. In terms of accreditation, we have an American accreditation. So we are initially Swiss-based. We've been here for 10 years. We are the first school in the world that started business administration degree and sustainability. And the idea is to bring a win-win situation in the companies, in, I would say, the old way of functioning and aiming to a more sustainable way of doing things. So we have this American accreditation since 2016. It's in 2004, there is 2,400 higher education already accredited with this accreditation. So it's one of the, I would say, the most prestigious one to have when you're a private school, at least in Switzerland. Also, we have the registration for the Swiss private school. We have the Curious Star rating in United Nations Global Compact Initiative, principle for responsible management. So the two of them are prestigious, I would say, sustainable accreditation that you can have. And we also provide an IBCP program for career-related studies. Then we will talk about briefly, we have, as I mentioned, we have the ABCP, we have the BBA, the Bachelor of Business Administration. Then we have the Master of Art in Management, the MAM. We have the Master of Business Administration, the MBA, Certificate of Advanced Studies, and we have the DBA. The majors: sustainability management, sustainable fashion management. So obviously, sustainable fashion management, we opened the campus in Milan because I think it's a great place to do this major. We have the sustainable hospitality management, sustainable tourism management, finance and responsible investment. That's only for the BBA and the MBA. The bachelor is in 3 years. We have 2 intakes, February and September. 33 core modules, 9 specialized modules, and it's each year you will have an experiential camp and company projects. Okay, that's, I won't go through all the modules, but yeah, as you can see, you have the core courses. You will be a complete business administration degree, and then you have all the major in sustainability. We do the experiential camp that I just mentioned. To give you a brief idea, every year during the break, we try to choose a project and a destination, obviously related to sustainability. In Milan, the fashion show, sustainable fashion show in Thailand. We saw like a sustainable hotel. So, and in biodiversity, in clean energy in Costa Rica. ecotourism in Iceland to see how the tourism is impacting the environment. And then very interesting, the gross national happiness in Bhutan in 2016. This is some picture about the trips. And then we have the MAM, the master. It's 1 year full-time, 2 intakes, February, September, like the BBA. It's online as well, 18 months to 3 years, depending on your schedule, so it's super flexible. We have 4 intakes, January, April, July, and October, and it's 2 to 3 courses scheduled per term. Voilà. That's the modules that you have in the MAM, the core courses, and responsible management, executive leadership, entrepreneurship, development of intercultural skills, human resource management, career management, and strategic marketing. And then you have, you can choose one of the 4 majors. And then we have the MBA. It's similar with the MAM. We have 4 intakes, January, April, July, October for the online, 18 months to 3 years, and then 2 intakes on campus, February and September. The difference with the MAM that I just shown you is the core courses. To give you an example, the exam at the end, it's a simulation of you as a CEO that have to find a solution, resolve a problem as a business person, and also in a sustainable way. That's give you an idea what's the MBA it's all about. Sorry. Project learning experience. So with the BBA, you have the learning, the experiential camp. And then we have also the MAM and the MBA students that can join. It's a 2 weeks trip, and similar, you know, Costa Rica, Thailand, South Africa, and Bhutan. And it's always a nice project that they go see in Thailand, but sustainable fashion, sustainability management with the Doka Estate Coffee Plantation, to name a few, but not only. Our strength, I think, it's the professor that we have, as you will see soon with Dr. Hans Bender, but it's also our 10 years experience and the projects that we working with. As you can see, it's Milan and Glan, which are our 2 campuses, but also outside of Europe with South Africa. But to mention the project, we have Procter Gamble, Barria, African Wildlife Foundation, Moleskine, Wildlife Foundation, WWF, ICA. I mean, it's so interesting projects that we work with and that you do in class with the professor and with your classmates as a team. So that's something very important, that when you finish your study with us, you already have an experience and you already worked on a project. And then just to, okay, 10 minutes. So I'm gonna hand briefly, just to give you an idea of how the market is evolving. 2017, 56,000 open position in LinkedIn and 163 in 2021. That's 150% increase in just 4 years. And it's the numbers are rising even more now as we speak. And they say that 24 million new jobs will be created in the green economy by 2030. Okay, sorry. Okay, career and employability. So at SUMAS, we have exclusive access to sustainability careers and network with the community and partners. It's coming from the alumni, the projects we're working, and sometimes our professors. We have also the project with partners that I just mentioned. It's opening up your network once you're in Switzerland or in Italy. The career fairs, personal career guidance, and professional development. And also we have company visits, guest lectures organized by SUMAS. And also we have personal branding and career management. So I'm done with the brief presentation. Please stay tuned until the end. We have a special announcement, but now I will forward the lead to Dr. Hans Bender.
People should now see the full screen and not too much in there. Otherwise, people please speak up if you don't see what you are supposed to see. Yeah, Benjamin touched briefly already on me being a professor at SUMAS, and I've been actually part of a founding group of SUMAS back in 2012. The school almost exists 10 years now. My background is in chemistry. I have a Ph.D. in chemistry. I spent most of my professional life with Procter Gamble, 32 years in total, and I spent most of it in research and development. And then towards the end of my career, then also in external relations. And I feel that's a very, very good mix to talk about sustainability, because when you work research and development in the 30-some years that I did it, and you work on products like Ariel and Lenor and Mr. Proper and Pampers and Always, and so then you're, of course, consistently confronted with a question on sustainability, while at the same time, you want your products to be sold. You want your products to be acceptable and attractive to the consumer. So you're constantly in this conflict of economy versus ecology. And when we were founding SUMAS, this was also one of the key themes that went into what the school will stand for. And you see it here in the title, Sustainability Management. We want to manage sustainability. And in many of the cases that I have come across in my own company, but I also worked on the board of trade associations like CEFIC, like the European Detergent Association and so on, most of the conflicts you deal with in sustainability, in my experience, is the ecological versus the economic benefit. Our societies have come about, particularly in the last 70, 80 years, with a free and prospering economy, and the prosperity that we all enjoy is a result of a free market that we have created over these decades. And now we are recognizing that resources are finite, that climate change is happening, and we want to maintain, of course, this prosperity, but at the same time, we want to address the environmental questions and to some extent also the social questions that are grouped around sustainability. And finding that sweet spot, finding that combination is absolutely critical, and is also important. And SUMAS is trying with its students to prepare them, to educate them to succeed in this kind of an environment. So what I'm teaching at SUMAS is very much with a corporate, with an industrial mindset, and it doesn't surprise you, therefore, that innovation plays a key role. My mindset is not one where I advocate scarcity, austerity, where I say we need to go back to the Middle Ages and need to do without all the things we have come to enjoy and to love. My approach is to say we need to find innovation, we need to find new ways of addressing the challenges of our time with innovation, and in my personal case, of course, very much with technical innovation. Therefore, the role of innovation and sustainability for me is absolutely critical and fundamental. And what I'm going to cover briefly here over the next 20 or 30 minutes or so is giving you a little bit of an idea, how can one do that? How do we teach it at SUMAS, but also how is it experienced in companies of consumer goods companies, of chemical industry companies, but also other companies around the world. And the approach to innovation sustainability is very much straightforward. You need to define the issue. You need to look at your boundary conditions and your setup. You need to identify the key challenges in conflicts in sustainability, and then look at potential solutions. And then at the end, I give you a bit of an idea how you can get started. What does a hands-on list look like? I thought here also for this talk, and surely for the classes I teach or the courses I teach, there is a publication last year which exemplifies very, very nicely what I have in mind, or what I'm trying to teach and to preach here. And this is a publication by Bill Gates, which came out early last year, where he talks about how to avoid a climate disaster. And he is not advocating that we go back to austerity. And for those of you who haven't read the book, I encourage you to do it. He is, in a very simple language, just describing what is the issue around climate, and then describing in very, very simple terms, where does it originate from, where does it come from? And as you can see here, he is basically attributing the climate issue in carbon dioxide equivalents to basically 5 areas of human activity: how we plug in, how we make things, how we grow things, how we achieve mobility, how we get around, and how we stay comfortable at home, either in a cooled or in a warmed up environment. And then he goes step by step into each of these areas, looks at how do we do this today, which energies are we using, which carbon dioxide equivalents do they create, and then go and say, so, and what are the leads? What are the leads to address it? And of course, in these leads, there is the element of resource efficiency, reducing the use, but not compromising on the quality of life, but acting so that we can really address the issue. So that's just as one example of how innovation is being approached in an innovation course in sustainability at SUMAS. More generally, I would say innovation, particularly in the environment I'm most familiar with in consumer products, but also similar industries, can follow basically 3 approaches. The easiest one is the one you see on the top when you talk about consumer and customer demand. That makes it very easy. If a consumer or the market demands something for an industry, it's very easy to go and to respond. There may be some technological questions, but typically you can do it. The issue is when the consumer does not openly demand it. And that's one of the key issues we face with sustainability. The consumer or the citizen does not openly demand environmental sustainability. He or she wants it to be addressed, but he or she is not willing to pay more for it, i.e. reward any innovation. And that makes it very difficult to approach it only from a free market way. Since I've been in research and development 40 plus years ago, we have tried to make environmental sustainability interesting, attractive for the consumer, but only in very few cases have we succeeded. In most cases, the consumer is saying, well, I want the primary need to be met. For a baby, I want to wear a dry diaper. For detergent, I want to clean. For a food product, I want it to taste well. And I want it to be packaged conveniently. And then, of course, I expect the manufacturer to address this, to address environmental sustainability at the same time. But don't ask me to compromise. So that's why the top corner of our triangle here is sometimes very difficult. On the left bottom side, you see regulation, which is, of course, very straightforward, right? You just go and you regulate what you don't want to happen in the market anymore. You don't want any combustion engines anymore in mobility, or you legislate what kind of risks now. But it's not easy to do either, because at least in the Western world, you want a broad consensus in society for regulation. You don't want also regulation to stifle industry, to stifle prosperity. So also regulation is not always the easy way to go. And the last one is, of course, if you can get industries together and say, well, we do it as an industry voluntarily. We set our standards voluntarily. And you see some examples. I personally have a lot of experience with it, but you see some examples that can succeed. I mean, there's new supply chain agreements happening right now in Europe, supported also by European regulation. There is also, when you look at the whole mobility change that's happening, particularly in Europe, going to away from combustion engine, you see a lot of voluntary industry collaboration there. But there's also a fine line, because you want to maintain the competitiveness of the industry, right? You want people to compete, or industries to compete, because that's at the bottom or at the core of the success that we have as a society. So innovation in the center of what we want to do to address sustainability. Maybe just very quickly on the approaches we talk. The authoritative approach, you need broad societal alliance. You need to rely heavily on available technology. You can't regulate future technology which doesn't exist. And you need to ensure a level playing field that hopefully does not lead to lack of competitive activity. On the collaboration of industry, you need an aligned industry. You need clear boundaries so that you collaborate only in certain areas, but you don't want to stifle innovation. And you allow independent verification of a process. So you need kind of a referee to do that. And then the free market approach is the one we are most familiar with, and we know the best, right? But you need a consumer who wants it. You need a consumer who values it. That means a consumer who is willing to pay for it, so that you get a return on your investment that you are making. A key watch out here is that you avoid greenwashing. Greenwashing is typically a term where you say something or you promise something that on the surface sounds very, very appealing from a sustainability point of view. But when you dig deeper, you find, there are some pitfalls that have been overlooked. A simple example that I keep quoting is this major war that happens against plastic bags, definitely in the Western world, probably around the world, where people are advocating replacing them with paper bags. That sounds very nice on the surface, but once you go into life cycle analysis and deep analysis, then you recognize that this is not without question, to phrase it carefully. And then, in order to have progress in this area, you need to create competitive activity. You don't want a monopoly. So the consumer needs to be able to see more and less progress in sustainability, and companies in different ways satisfying it, and then deciding it so that it becomes a subject to competitive activity, like a better tasting food, like a better washing detergent, like a better fitting piece of cloth, and. That's what you need to create. but that's typically very, very difficult. And because that's what at the end drives the consumer interest. So I touched briefly on greenwashing, and that makes it again difficult for a free market approach. If you go to a consumer and you say, do you prefer a recycled pack over a non-recycled pack? The answer is very straightforward. Of course, he or she wants the recycled pack. But what you need to look at into a scientist or as an industry is, what does it take to recycle? And very often, if you go and recycle, you need to invest more energy, more effort, more resources that impact environmental sustainability. And not always what sounds better is also giving you the better results. So that's why you need science to be guided in environmental sustainability. And again, this is very different from all other areas where you basically respond to a consumer need. You just listen to what the consumer wants and you give it to her. But in the context of sustainability, this is not as easy, and you need to stay the high ground. So don't get trapped into what just sounds nice. And in my own experience, I've fought many battles with the marketing people who came back from market research from the market and were really excited, a beautiful environmental claim. And I said, but we can't support it. It's nonsense. The consumer may believe it, but at the end, it's scientifically not supportable. So that's important to keep in mind when you do this. The role of competitive advantage is critical. I mean, to everything in a free economy, the basis of that is that you have a competitive advantage, that you try to achieve a competitive advantage, be it that you have a better product at the same price or that you have a lower price for an equally good performing product. So this is very, very critical. But again, on environmental sustainability, this is not easy for the consumer to verify. That's why you need consumer verification when you talk innovation in environmental sustainability. And very often you need a third party to confirm what you say as a manufacturer, as a company. You need a third party to endorse you. We saw earlier that we have a collaboration SUMAS with WWF. They are very often an important partner also to companies to kind of sign with their logo that the company is talking the truth, that the company is providing a trustworthy offer to the consumer. And that way you can then develop consumer trust. Again, very different from satisfying mainstream or primary needs of consumers where the consumer can verify herself. When talking sustainability, and this is, I think, again, different at SUMAS versus when you talk to an NGO or so, it's very important that we take a balanced approach to sustainability. When you are an advocacy group, when you are an NGO, you can single-mindedly focus just on one issue and you don't worry about the rest because you want to get attention and you want to get support for the agenda that you drive. For instance, climate change or biodiversity or plastic waste in surface waters or something like that. So you are driving just one option. You're not interested in the rest. That is different, of course, when you end up in a company, a corporation, because there you are expected as a sustainability manager to also keep in mind the economic considerations, very often following from that, the social implications. And so what one needs to keep in mind when driving sustainability is the other elements. And that's something we pay particular attention to at SUMAS. We don't want to have graduates go out in the world. We don't want to have exclusively graduates who go out into the world and just advocate environmental sustainability without a view on how it can be accomplished, without a view on the other things that are needed to get there. And in my experience, those people were somewhat passionate, but also narrow-minded about just environmental sustainability. They risk not getting the right support in corporations because the modern sustainability manager, he or she needs to be able to work with other functions, to work with marketing, to work with finance, to work with product supply, in order to listen to what they want and find a good balance of all three at the same time. I've given you here in this slide an example of what are the various the various considerations that you have to go through. At a corporate level, at the bottom, it's almost always economy versus ecology in all my experiences. It's the sustainability manager who comes forward and says, we need to make this investment. We need to convert to renewable energy. We need to start a recycling infrastructure. And the immediate question is always, and how do we finance it? Can we pass it on to the market? How will it affect our product? And so this is something we must be intimately aware of. And later on in the presentation, I give you a few clues on how that can be addressed, this conflict. At a societal level, there's the third dimension coming. That's why I'm talking about three pillars. There's the third dimension, the societal element. And very often, the societal element is closer to the economic element than it is to the ecological element. Because typically, when the economy works well for a corporation or a country as a whole, then also societal aspects, social aspects of providing employment or providing social benefits can be satisfied. In the moment the economy is suffering, the economy is having problems, then also the social elements immediately play a role. You can follow that very, very nicely. I mean, Germany, where I'm sitting right now, is going into a major discussion into renewable energy. How do we enable renewable energy? And they want to go out of coal mining very, very soon. And those groups in German society that are as critical about a fast move out of coal mining are unions, worker associations, and so, because they fear about the economic consequences that immediately become also social consequences. So, and then at the third one, there's many of you are of course familiar with, there is the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals that were, as you know, renewed following the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals in 2015, setting a global agenda of what needs to be considered when a global agenda, what needs to be considered. Here's another slide that basically captures again what I was just saying. You have the social, ecological, and economic aspects to the overall sustainability, overall environment, and then you have a description where the circuits overlap of what you have, a bearable, equitable, and viable. And then in the center, and that's what we are looking for, we have sustainability. As I mentioned, most of you should be familiar with the 17 SDGs. When you're arguing, when you're working in a company, it can be helpful also when you work in an industry or trade association, because they allow you maybe to work on 2 or 3 and therefore provide you with some anchoring of what you do in a company on a broader agenda, on a global agenda. So you can find yourself in saying, hey, I as a company, I want to go and I want to, for instance, do innovation and infrastructure on sustainability. I want to work on sustainability, sustainable cities and communities, so you can pick it. Also worth noting in the context of SDGs here as an aside, Mark, environmental sustainability is not the number one, right? So we need to be aware that while we teach and progress on environmental sustainability, other elements of society may be as important or perhaps even more important than environmental sustainability, important to keep. I promise you to talk a little bit with you about how to get started. And I always like in my example with Bill Gates, I like to understand what is the problem, whether it's your client, whether it's your partner in your company, whether it is someone in society. I think the way you can start the argumentation usefully is starting to discuss what happens in the case of inertia. I think in the case of climate change, it's very obvious. The science is very aligned on what happens if I don't do anything. Also in a company, when you say, well, I'm exclusively on fossil materials right now, what if I don't change? What will happen? What will happen to my valuing at the stock market? What will happen to my valuing by my customers? And so describing a future world where that is likely if you don't do anything on environmental sustainability, may be a good entry into the discussion that you have. Also looking at what your competitors do. I mean, freely competing companies like most of the corporations that we have in the Western world helps also bring people together. If I don't do it, my competitor might do it, and the competitor might get a competitive advantage. I may be out of business or suffer majorly out of it. So that's another element of getting involved. Then also the regulatory environment. When you, for instance, when the German government decided to get out of nuclear energy in 2012 after Fukushima incident, a number of energy companies were met on the wrong foot. And so if you have in a company a good regulatory department that kind of can see what are the future developments so that you can address them, then of course, again, you are ahead of the game. And then also what's the financial environment? I touched it already. How is your company valued? If you don't address environmental sustainability, what could be the consequences of doing
that? That will drive the show. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And you are perfectly on time. This is meant to be ESG as a headline. Sorry about this. And ESG is kind of a new element, or new, it's an element that has been introduced over the last few years by corporations to broaden environmental sustainability, to bring also in another important element, and that is governance. On environment, you see the typical aspects that we also teach at SUMAS. And social, also the things that you would expect under social, and touched on. And companies have recognized also that governance is not often getting the same attention, the necessary attention that it should be getting in running a company well, in running a company responsibly. And mentioning it here, you might come across there. It's also part of what we teach in SUMAS. You see the third element here is not economy. It's in a company seen as a given that you concentrate on an economically prosperous company, and ESG becomes kind of the counterpart to economic prosperity. So the things that you need to keep in mind in order to behave well and to be on a successful way. So if you are in a discussion on why in a corporation should I address sustainability, what are the opportunities? I think that the things that I would just throw into the conversation is reputation building with customers and suppliers, with employees, also with prospective new hires. If you don't address environmental sustainability, then I think you're risking here in this area to not be in the forefront. You can also argue with win-wins through higher value by owners and investors in stock markets and so on. And that's where I'm coming to in a moment, the win-wins through efficiency gains. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. Now, let's talk briefly, and we spent quite some time on SUMAS on these ones, on the details and also on case studies. Let's briefly talk about how would you get started. One of my favorites is a life cycle approach. There's lots of material out there on DIN norms and international norms on how to do life cycle. All I want to cover here or mention to you here is if you need to take in everything, you do a life cycle approach, not necessarily quantitatively, but consider the beginning and the end of what you're responsible for. Otherwise, you will be very likely succeed. And then as you get started again with your customers and suppliers, understand where your product adds value. So have a really fundamental business understanding. Understand your hotspots, understand where you are vulnerable. So identify key environmental, social issues along the supply chain, not for what you control, but also for what you're responsible for. And then apply, of course, materiality thinking. What is big and important? How do you set the right priorities? And then, of course, key is that you measure and you monitor and you manage. You need to be quantitatively, you need to understand where you are so that you can set the right goals and then you can take corrective action. Many of you, I guess, are familiar with the waste hierarchy, with the waste hierarchy. I just throw it in here again, just as a headline. You start, of course, by preventing waste in the first place, and you try to reuse, recycle, and then eventually you come to recovery. And if everything fails, then of course you need to dispose. A big topic is, of course, moving from a linear economy to a circular economy. How can we get out of the current situation where we make and then basically dispose to a circular economy? And there are a number of concepts out there that look either at a biological circle or a technical circle, and they are part of also of what we teach. Then, as I mentioned earlier, be on top of regulations, climate change activities, social injustice, all of that impacts, of course, what you are doing there. And then I can't remind you often enough of sound science. Be guided by facts, supported by science. Get also independent opinions. That's absolutely critical in a company to get independent advisors in. Very often they have more credibility than you may have as a person and support you in what you're trying to do in your company, and of course avoid greenwashing. Then as a last one here in how to get started is ensure transparency. I mean, we had the rule in P&G. Imagine everything you say and everything you do can show up on the front page of USA Today or New York Times, and that's how you should behave. I see I'm running out of time, so I want to give just one last element here, which I think is very important, that I make a big part of my teaching here, and that is look at where you can have a win-win. Very, very important in a corporation. And my suggestion would be always try to start with resource efficiency. Look across your supply chain where you have waste in today, where you could move to a change in process, a change in material usage, a change in distribution that reduces cost and at the same time typically reduces also environmental impact. In my experience, that typically has brought always the people together, the people from product supply with sustainability and the people from finance into the group, who are very often the most skeptical about making these investments because they don't see a short-term return. And going through resource efficiency, and it's a big part in what we teach at SUMAS, is absolutely vital in order to bring in conflicting views together. Lastly, my suggestion would be, if you can, try to, and we talked that again at SUMAS, how to write the sustainability reports, what needs to go in there. A sustainability report has the benefit that you get typically the cover note from the CEO of a company. So you have the commitment also, you show the commitment to the entire company. You get an alignment across the company, and you show first what you have done in the review period, but you have also the opportunity to introduce some commitments looking to the future. And that's then a solid baseline for the future. So to wrap up, be fact-based and database, be open and transparent, be clear on objectives and beware of too narrow task definition. We talked about the LCA thing. Look for early wins. Resource efficiency is probably the one which gives you the entry. And then communicate with the reporting we talked, the plans, the achievements, and so on. Benjamin, I think I show 41, so I think I stayed within my...
Yeah, your timing is very impressive as well, huh?
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's really nice and very interesting as usual. I hope that the people who joined, they learned a lot from it. Don't hesitate to ask questions. If you have, as we do this webinar, you can type. There's also a question answer session at the end, but we can also answer as we go. Okay, without losing any time on the agenda, now let's welcome Oonagh, that is here with us, and that will talk more about her career and the past in sustainability, which is an amazing one, and I'll let you all find out. And yeah, good luck, Oonagh.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. And yes, thank you so much, Dr. Bender, for setting the scene there. So I had the privilege of going to SUMAS back in 2016, graduating in 2017. I went for the online MBA with a major in sustainability management. And the reason for that is I was very much at an inflection point in my career. So my background has always been sustainability, environmental protection. I studied geography and sociology at university, then went on to do a master's in environmental engineering, and then worked in local government agencies like the Environment Agency and Agri-Food Biosciences. I then went on to be a consultant with PwC, and then subsequently joined Dow, the company I'm currently with, back in 2012. So I've been with Dow for 10 years now, and I joined the company in the Integrated Supply Chain Organization, coming in as a supply chain sustainability specialist. Now, I was in supply chain sustainability for 6 years, and I absolutely loved it. And I find, though, that as I was working on supply chain sustainability, to Dr. Bender's point, customers were asking a lot more about sustainability and wanting to get more engaged. And there was a bit of a disconnect there between the business leaders and the customers and our offering as an organization, and understanding the importance of sustainability to Dr. Bender's point, why it matters, the impact of the external world on business operations. So given I had the background in sustainability, I tried to have that conversation with the different businesses in the organization, but I really found that there was an inability for me to correctly articulate or understand the business mindset to the extent that the business leaders had. So the reason I went for the MBA, I did a lot of research. I will be honest, I did a lot of research into the different courses that are available, not just at SUMAS, but in a variety of organizations and universities. And I selected SUMAS because I really liked that this school had sustainability really embedded within it. It wasn't that you were doing your MBA and then you had one module on sustainability. That's not what I was looking for, because I knew that's not the corporate world, that's not the world we live in. The MBA really had sustainability intertwined through every module, and that's exactly what I was looking for. So given that it was online as well, it was beneficial for me. It worked. It meant I had a little bit of flexibility with my work as well. So I had that work-life balance. And yeah, the course itself really helped me to increase my business acumen as it related to sustainability and really get a better understanding of the mindset of our business leaders, and then taking the sustainability piece and conveying it in a way that they would understand. Because I didn't want to come to them with sustainability in mind and shoehorn it into what they were doing. They needed to see that actually sustainability is a part of doing business. And really sustainability is so key when it comes to ensuring that you have a license to operate as an organization. Our company itself, it's a large company. We had $39 billion in net sales in 2020. We have over 35,500 employees globally and 106 manufacturing sites in 31 countries. So we had a huge reach as well. And it was very clear that sustainability is a huge part of that. And now sustainability is actually one of our core pillars of our organization. Our ambition is to be the most sustainable, customer-centric, inclusive, and innovative material science company in the world. We were, to an extent, very early in the game. We have been doing sustainability, or at least we've had sustainability goals since 1995, when we launched our first 10-year goals when it came to sustainability. So we've had 3 decades so far of sustainability goals. But bringing that outside in perspective has definitely accelerated over the last few years, and particularly, as Dr. Bender mentioned, the ESG space. It's very important for us to work on sustainability, but also from a stakeholder perspective, multiple stakeholders are very invested in sustainability, and that includes prospective employees. They want to work now for companies that are more sustainable, more responsible. Investors, they want to make informed investment decisions based on sustainability credentials, as well as their financial credentials, of course. And also customers and consumers as well. There's the expectation there that you will work in sustainability. So what I find with this course, with the MBA in particular, it really provided that holistic overview of sustainability in the business sense. It wasn't an add-on, it wasn't shoehorned in, it was really part of doing business. And that's something I was very, very grateful to have. I also found that as I was doing the course, certain modules in particular were very beneficial to me. So for example, at the executive leadership module, it really took leadership to the next level. It moved from kind of that mid-level leadership point to becoming an inspirational leader whenever you're in your organization. So that was really key for me, because it meant that I had a better impact. I had more credibility in particular. I also had a huge amount of understanding of the role of different organizations within our company. And that really, I garnered that understanding from the capstone module. So this is your final module that Benjamin mentioned, where you go in and you're a CEO of a company and you have to make different business decisions. That was so beneficial. It really gave an insight as to the impact of a decision in one organization on another organization within the company, and how, you know, the sales organization, marketing, and finance, production, they're all interconnected. And that brought very much a more holistic mindset, and really showcasing that collaboration was very much key to what we did. In Dr. Bender's module in particular, you know, sustainable innovation, you really learned how to embed sustainability in business strategies. We have 6 business units in our company, ranging from packaging and specialty plastics, consumer solutions, industrial solutions, hydrocarbons and energy, coatings and monomers, and construction chemicals. All of those business units, they roll up to the organization as a whole, to Dow as a whole. But each business unit was really responsible for looking at our corporate goals and say, okay, how are we going to help our company drive our achievement to those corporate goals? How is this business unit going to make an impact and contribute to the achievement of those goals? That's where sustainable innovation was really key, in working with those businesses to embed sustainability in their business strategies. So to ensure alignment to the corporate goals and ambition, because ultimately we are one company, but also identifying the win-wins, and also the module itself helped us to identify stakeholders and taking them on the journey with you as well. So there's a big education piece internally, and having the MBA as a background really equipped me that in a manner that it helped empower me to take those individuals on that journey with me as well. So definitely overall, I felt that it was a very beneficial course to do. It really was a differentiator in my career, to be honest. You will see if anyone connects with me on LinkedIn. I moved back in 2006, between 2016 and 2017, I moved roles. So as I mentioned, I was in supply chain sustainability for 6 years. In mid 2017, I actually changed roles. I moved to the corporate sustainability organization within the company. And my role there was as EMEA sustainability leader. And I'm now global sustainability implementation manager, senior manager. And I really feel that the MBA helped me in that transition to that new role, because it added a lot more credibility, a lot more gravitas to what I was doing as an employee in the company. It also gave me a more holistic mindset, as I mentioned, to understand how to tailor my communication to the different functions within the company as well. So understanding what's important to our logistics group, understanding what's important to our commercial organization, and then bringing that all together. So really my role is, I see kind of like as an in-house consultant, and I absolutely love it because I'm getting to work across the different functions within our company. I'm also working in partnership with folks externally like CEFIC, as well as the WBCSD. And I'm also working very hands-on with customer accounts. You know, and we have seen multiple win-win projects with customers. And I think, you know, having that background in sustainability with the MBA has been very beneficial. I also feel that sustainability in itself is one of those topics where there's multiple opportunities. You're not pigeonholing yourself when it comes to doing an MBA in sustainability management or any of the others. Having that MBA itself, it really does open up a wealth of opportunities to you, because the thing is that sustainability is not just the responsibility and the implementation of a sustainability function within any one company. Sustainability is truly part of everybody's role within an organization. So that really relays back to the concept of ESG. You have your, I'll give you an example, your environmental piece. We have obviously a lot of hands-on experience there, corporate sustainability is involved there, but you also have people from the energy group, from water and wastewater treatment, from our Valuing Nature Gold group as well. You have social. How do we ensure that we are doing safe and sustainable operations? How do we ensure that we're responsible? Do we have a human rights policy in place? What's our position when it comes to child labour? How do we ensure we're not sourcing conflict minerals, for example. That all comes down to the social element, as well as global citizenship as well. So partnering, making sure that not just that you have a license to operate, but that from where you operate, you are a good neighbor, because you're not thinking just within your own fence line. You're thinking about what is the impact of my operations and my business beyond that fence line, to the communities in which I operate, to society, to the environment from which I'm operating as well. And then we also have the governance piece, hugely important. And that's where we ensure, again, that we have responsible operations, but that, due diligence is very much in play there. So people are now starting to realize that their role is having an impact on ESG and sustainability. People in finance, people in HR, people in inclusion and diversity, they're all interconnected as it moves forward in the ESG space. So yeah, I just wanted to go back to Benjamin, if there's any questions that maybe he has in particular for me, and if there's any questions from those on the call as well, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. That was very inspiring and impressive career that you had and you still have. And this is why we wanted to invite you today to the webinar, because I think you're quite a nice success story. And it's interesting enough that we have a lot of people that actually, like you, have an environmental scientist approach as an academic background, but they feel that there is not enough to make an impact, and that's why they come at SUMAS. So it's a bit related to what you said, and as Dr. Hans Bender said, it's a win-win situation. You need to have a business way of thinking, coming with numbers, and you need to apply this sustainable approach. But don't worry, I have all this sorted. You need to spend that much in there, and then you will get that return on investment over the time with this method. So that's the way we aim to change the world, right? So to make it simple, I would say. So we have a few questions, I think. Can we have? Yes. So we will send the recording to everyone that came to the webinar. We will first edit it, and you will receive the recording normally within a day or two after the webinar. So I got some of you that sent me an email as well. So you will all receive the webinar, because I saw the numbers changing. Some couldn't stay until the end. But yeah. Okay, perfect. So if anyone has any question, it's a good time to ask. We have normally 14 minutes for the open questions.
Yeah, just as people are writing questions there, I will add, a lot of people that I found on the course were people like myself that were mid-career, that were at an inflection point. And the course one was extremely beneficial in terms of global reach to the amount of others from different organizations and different cultures as well. That's something that was really insightful. Getting people working in teams and hearing different perspectives from your peers is something that you won't necessarily get in other organizations or other schools as well. The other thing that I will also mention is that it is hard work. You need to put the work in. But I will say that the result and the value that is derived from it is absolutely worth it. So I will say, don't be under any illusions that it's an easy thing to do. It's not. There. You have to commit to it, but you will reap the benefits, both in terms of personal enhancement, but also in terms of your career development as well.
I have a question for you, Oonagh. What do you think at the end, as a result of studying an MBA? Sorry about this noise. What changed in you, like the main skills that you had after coming out of SUMAS?
Yeah, I think definitely a better mindset, a more holistic mindset, in the sense that I looked at the bigger picture. I think whenever people are in an organization, if they're in a particular function, there is this mentality in some instances to kind of work within your, silo, that you don't have any of that peripheral vision, that you're within your silo. This course got me thinking about, okay, well, what is the impact of this decision going to be on a supply chain perspective? You know, if we're working with a customer, for example, perfect example, this is out publicly out there as well. We did a project with Dr. Bender's former company, P&G, and I was the project manager on it. And this is where the customer reached out to us to look at what they call the BOLT agreement, a business operational leadership team agreement, and focusing on particular topics of interest mutually. One of those topics was sustainability, and they said to us, okay, is there an area for improvement? What can we do in this space? Well, one opportunity that was identified was around network optimization. So taking a product that was made at our site and transporting it to the customer to their site. We had been doing that by a road, which obviously there's carbon emissions associated with that quite significantly. And we identified that there was actually a railway line parallel to it, which significantly lower carbon emissions. And that looks perfect on paper, you know, win-win. But this course, and I was doing this course at the time of that project, it made me think, okay, but what does this mean for people at the operational site? What does it mean for site logistics? Can that product actually be shipped in a rail car? Because some products for a chemical industry, some products have to be kept at a certain temperature in transportation. You know, so something on paper looked perfect, but it was only true kind of having that bigger mindset on the bigger picture that you were able to identify, would this work in reality? So connecting in with site logistics, connecting in with the customer, with the rail link as well. And it turned out that it was possible. And we did actually move the product from road to rail. It resulted in significant monetary savings for both parties. It also resulted in us selling more material to the customer, and it resulted in over 2,000 metric tons less CO2 equivalent emissions per journey. And it meant that we were doing less journeys as well, because we were able to get more product upload payload onto the rail car. So you weren't having multiple lorries going a week, you might have had one rail car as well. So that was a really good win-win for us and for P&G, and they actually published it in their P&G citizenship report back in 2019 or 2018, and we published it in our ESG report as well, because it was a good example of collaboration between a customer and supplier.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly the win-win situation that you were talking about. Naomi, to answer your question, yes, but it's live classes, huh? So you can follow it online, but it's live classes, so it's pretty much like you are in class. I have another question. It's an interesting one. It's from Pedro. For Valentin, sorry. Is the MBA suitable also for well-experienced professionals and not only mid-career? That's all about the MBA, but I think you guys can answer better than me.
I think absolutely. You know, I came into Dow as an experienced hire, and I was 6 years in the company before I did the MBA. I think absolutely it is suitable, because if you're coming in as somebody who is experienced, you have that business acumen to a degree, but you mightn't necessarily have that sustainability mindset to embed throughout that. So the MBA will give you that sustainability mindset and really frame it out for you to make it more complete program as well. I will also say that through the MBA, moving from as an experienced hire, sustainability and ESG in itself, it really gets you to look inwards as to what is your purpose. What do you want your legacy to be, and what is your purpose? Not just your purpose as a company, but also your purpose as an individual. And that MBA will really help you to question that and challenge yourself for the better good.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that, Oonagh. I would add perhaps that we have both types of middle or even senior managers on the courses. We have those who are business managers today and want to add a sustainability pillar to their knowledge and therefore come to SUMAS and take the course. And we have also sustainability managers of medium-sized or even sometimes larger companies who still enjoy of what we are talking, because very often it just still gives an extra perspective and an extra look at the situation. So we actually have sometimes a very lively exchange with these very experienced students and debating the case studies and so on. So absolutely right.
Thank you for the answer. I have more questions to come up. Pedro, yes, I mean, the programs we have, we also have the online version, which is super flexible. You can finish the program in 3 and 4 years. It's really flexible. On campus, no. I mean, if you're a parent, so you can't really move to Switzerland or in Italy, but yeah, the online version is super flexible. Shouldn't be an issue. Usually it's people who are like 30, 45 years old, they have kids, they have a job. So yeah, so it's designed for the profile like you. What were the difficulties you experienced during your MBA course? Good question.
Yeah, I will be completely honest and transparent here. One of the main difficulties was personal difficulty, and I find that I had a sudden bereavement from an immediate family member, and it really, put me in a position where I panicked. I had this MBA, the course was starting on the Wednesday, and I will have to say wholeheartedly, SUMAS were second to none in the support that they give me as an individual. And I was so surprised as somebody who was not on campus that from a duty of care perspective, SUMAS was very, very supportive to me as an online candidate. I would say, that stood out for me overall in that course. I went to University of Queen's in Ireland here, Queen's University, and I would say that professors didn't even know who we were. Most of the class, there's over 150 people in a lecture theatre. You wouldn't have got that sort of support. So that was a difficult issue for me. The other thing in terms of difficulties experienced during my MBA, I would say just making sure the balance of work and study as well and social life. I'll be honest, social life was not overly existent. However, I did make the personal decision to do the MBA in 18 months. So that was the most compressed. But that was because I wanted to just keep up the momentum of study. And I knew if I had a couple of months off, I wouldn't be in that mindset. The other thing as well, I think, like I said, the difficulty in terms of managing work and course, it's doable. You have to put in place a structure. So for example, I finished work at about 5:30, 6 o'clock every evening, have my lunch, and then I would study from about 7 o'clock till 9:30 every evening. And then Saturdays, I would take Saturday mornings and study. And I was religious with that. I just had that structure in place. And that was a huge benefit to me because I knew that was my study time, no other distractions. And I was able to dedicate my attention to the course. So it made it manageable. It just meant that, you were meeting your deadlines on time and so forth as well.
Thanks a lot for the transparency. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about time management. You have a calendar, you book the slots, but don't worry, once you apply with us or when you go through the admission, you have to be transparent in terms of how many hours you can study, when you won't be here, if you travel, if you have a wedding, something that you won't be able to study for, I would say, a month or two. If you're transparent from day one, we can, adjust the calendar and the duration, the length of the studies. Eli, yes, you're welcome to come for the experiential camp or the project that we do when we do those two weeks trips. For sure, even if you do online, you can join. Hi, your degree are equal to US. Yes, we are accredited from an American accreditation, the ACBSP. We also have accreditation for Swiss private schools. So yes, we are a private university in Switzerland and in Italy, if that answers your question. I'm just reading as we go because we have a lot of questions coming in. So am I correct? Yes, correct, Anna. It's 46 credits for the MBA. To full master, yes, correct. It's correct. Okay. For the technical question, I think a lot of you click that they will be interested to get more information after the webinar. So don't worry, we will be contacting you, and we can always schedule a call and send you more information.
I see there's some questions in the Q&A as well. So there's one for Dr. Bender.
Yeah, I have yeah, it's 60 European credits. and we have the American credits conversion as well. Dr. Hans,
Yeah.
to the concept you shared apply to small and mid-sized organizations, small players in sustainable product market. They face bigger challenges compared to large organizations.
Yes and no. I mean, it depends a little bit on what type of challenges you talk. When you're in a big organization, I think we listened carefully to Oonagh. Very often you face a challenge to make yourself heard, to connect correctly with the right business units and have an impact. In a big organization, and I talk also here from a big company perspective, making the right connections, building up your personal credibility and your stamina is very critical to have an impact. And I think Oonagh described very, very nicely how over the years she has done that, and with the help of the SUMAS course as well. When you're in a medium-sized company, I think getting an impact is normally a little easier because typically you can talk directly to the leader of a business, to the CEO. The issue there, I think, is really to be very choiceful because SMEs typically don't have that many resources to work on. And there, to Oonagh's earlier point, I think understanding the business model, understanding your suppliers, understanding your customers is absolutely critical. So in a SME, in a small or medium-sized enterprise, I would say it's even more important as a sustainability manager to be equally a business manager, put that hat on, and therefore address sustainability aspects while you're, of course, serving the business.
Perfect. I think that answered the question. Oonagh, the next one is for you. What professional advice would you give me? I'm just finishing my bachelor in business administration. Come to SUMAS, but yeah, I'll let you answer.
Yeah, come to SUMAS. Yeah, definitely. I think doing the MBA was fantastic in sustainability management. And what I would say to Julia is do not limit yourself. One, identify what you're passionate about and what excites you and what you do, because you need to work because you enjoy it, not because, you know, it's a paycheck at the end of the day. You want to actually do what you enjoy. So identify, because business administration itself, you're tapping into so many different areas there, and it can be overwhelming. So just hone in on what you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about it, you're going to excel at it. And definitely when it comes to business administration, there needs to be that recognition that any business that operates today, if they do not have sustainability in their business model, they're not going to be operating in 10, 15, 20 years time. So bringing that mindset of sustainability to the business operational side of things and the operating model and the business model, that's a real differentiator. Looking at the bigger scope, looking at the ESG and sustainability space through the business lens rather than the other way around.
Perfect. So we have one more question, and then I will make the announcement that I mentioned. We have a special announcement. So yeah, I think it's for a student, a future student of SUMAS, asking, do you have any advices to prepare for the MBA?
Yeah, so I didn't come from a business background at all. As I mentioned, you know, my background was environmental engineering and geography. So I had to do a couple of those exams in advance before I applied to the MBA as well. And I would say, yeah, just do your homework. Ensure that you can commit the time, you know, and that you will commit fully to it, because it is something that will be a big part of your life for 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, whichever avenue you decide to take. And yeah, I think just be very open to it and just absorb as much as you can. But in terms of preparation, just make sure that you have the credentials before you apply. If you don't, SUMAS do provide you with the opportunity to get those. I did them myself in different courses before applying. So yeah, there's plenty of options available to help you prepare before you go in.
Perfect. There's a good questions as well. Sorry, I take a little bit more of your time, if you don't mind, Oonagh and Hans Bender.
Okay.
How is the course in terms of different? How do you apply and how broad and applicable, sorry, is the course in terms of different types of industries? Before you answer, I just want to mention that we have the sustainable fashion, hotel, tourism. We have finance investment, and we have the general sustainability management. But yeah, I think maybe one of you can also give a deeper answer to that question.
Oonagh?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Oonagh.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it's extremely broad and applicable because it's like, well, I can speak about the MBA in particular. It's in itself broad. You're focusing on so many different areas. A lot of the topics that you're working on or studying are applicable to all organizations of different sizes, whether you're a private company or an NGO or a government entity. People on the course are coming from those different industries as well. Provides a lot of really interesting discussions and peer-to-peer sort of, you know, challenges in terms of challenging each other, which is exciting. But definitely from my perspective, sustainability is applicable to all organizations, no matter what. Also, I have the benefit of being in a company that is a material science company that taps into different market segments as well, multiple industries, consumer, industrial, automotive. Sustainability is part of the conversation across every sector that we have of customers. So yeah, it's very broad and I think very applicable.
Okay, I'm sorry, one more question, because I think it's a fantastic question to finish this webinar. What would you say your biggest USP is against other universities offering similar courses to international students? Are you as well acknowledged globally? That's first, we have the accreditation, the ICBSP. We are Swiss, initially we are Swiss-made school, university, private school. We are in a Swiss private school accreditation, but also we are again the first school that launched a business administration degree with sustainability. So we have 10 years, it's our 10 years anniversary. We have a long reach in terms of local industries in Switzerland and now in Milan. Amazing project we work with, big names, and also our professors. It's one of our big strengths. We have a strong alumni network, like Oonagh is one of the proof of what I just mentioned, and also Dr. Hans Bender here. But maybe if both of you want to add something to this important question, I think would be nice.
Yeah, I think you described it already well. I mean, it shows that you're up to the job you're doing here. Very good, excellent job, Benjamin, I have to say. I would say, yeah, I mean, I think the connections to industry, I mean, being embedded in industry and understanding corporations, understanding the corporate world is, from where I sit, clearly a strength of SUMAS.
Yeah. So I will just make the announcement now. So thank you for the one that stay until the end. The other one, they will receive the recording. So yes, so the special announcement is basically, as you know, we have 4 to 5 majors, depending if you do the MBA or the MAM. You have to choose one major, which is in sustainable hotel management, fashion, tourism. And then you have finance and also the general one, sustainability management. If you take from now on until the 17th of March, if you apply for a master or MBA online or on campus, not only you get the major that you choose, but you get one extra module from another major. So let's say if you study sustainability, tourism management, you can also select one from the hotel management, or you can choose one from the fashion. So it's a very nice offer, and you have 2 options. Either you complete it as you complete it totally, so you get like a certificate of completion, and you get the credits, or you can just be there as not as a spectator, I would say, but you can follow the course without completing it. So you will have a certificate of attendance. So it's a really nice offer. I think it's the first one we're doing it at SUMAS, and it's valid until the 17th of March, because a lot of people, they don't know if they want to do, for example, hotel or tourism, or if they want to do finance or sustainability management. So now they can basically have 1 out of the 5 modules of another major, which is super exciting, I think. Yes, so I think that's about it. Yeah, it's a beautiful day, Julia. I think so. And beautiful people. Thanks for all the questions that we had. And I think we're about it. We are 8 minutes a bit late on schedule, but that's perfect. All because of you. And thanks, Dr. Hans Bender. Thanks, Oonagh, for joining today. Thanks for the amazing question that we had. And yeah, see you for the next webinar, I guess.